Hey, what's happening, guys? What is going on YouTube? It has been a while. It's actually been quite some time, but we are back with another episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays. I'm gonna go off script for a minute. It's kind of crazy. I didn't realize how long it had been since I made a Side Hustle Tuesdays episode. This was always one of my favorite series to do. I really enjoyed doing this series. I got to talk with and connect with a lot of entrepreneurs, which was a lot of fun. And I know a lot of you guys really enjoyed this series as well. And some of you guys who watch the channel even had your stories featured on here, and I thought it was a cool way to kind of get you guys involved and share your stories as well. And it wasn't until I started preparing for this episode that I had to look back and find my template for the thumbnail, as well as see like what episode did we leave off on. And I was kind of shocked. It's almost a year to the day since the last episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays. The last episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays was January 15th of 2019. And today is actually January 13th of 2020. I'm going to be posting this video tomorrow, Tuesday, January 14th, which is actually my mom's birthday. I got to grab her something. But yeah, it kind of blew my mind to think a whole year went by. You know, I knew I kind of fell off and I wanted to get back into it. I got kind of busy at the end of last year. I sold my business, and then I kind of got into a little bit of a rut. You know, it's kind of crazy how much you at least for me, how much of my identity was tied up in you know, being a business owner of this particular business and a successful business, and you know, selling that and walking away from it. I was just kind of in a rut for a while. So kind of a combination of that as well as kind of being busy with getting other things started. Just completely fell off. A whole year's gone by. And I can't believe that I stopped 3 episodes short of 100, which is kind of a landmark number. And I also can't believe that we've done this many of these episodes. That's mind-blowing. I do have a Side Hustle Tuesdays playlist, and I'll put that down in the description box below. I'll also make sure I add all the previous episodes to that. So if you guys are new to the series, new to the channel, feel free to check out that playlist. But yeah, this was always one of my favorite segments. I wanted to bring it back. One of the biggest challenges with putting together these stories and videos is actually finding stories and connecting with entrepreneurs. So if you have a side hustle of your own, big or small, and you're open to sharing your story, shoot me an email at rulesforrebels@gmail.com, and I'd love to feature you on a future episode. It'd be great content for me and the audience, and you get a bit of free press and a backlink out of it as well. So if you're interested in having your business, your hustle featured on an episode, please reach out to me. Again, rulesforrebels@gmail.com. I'll either send you a questionnaire, or we can connect on a Hangout. I'll kind of gather all the information that I need from you, and then I'll put together the story and feature it on an episode. So for those of you guys who are new or who forgot what this series is all about, Side Hustle Tuesdays is a weekly series we do here at Rules for Rebels, where we feature a different side hustler and the business that they started. A side hustle, just to recap, is a business you can launch outside of your 9-to-5 job with low risk and little to no investment. And to me, the beauty of a side hustle is that they allow you to test out an idea or a potential business without putting a lot on the line. If it takes off, you can scale it larger. And in many of these stories, people actually do wind up leaving their full-time jobs to pursue these businesses. Whereas with others, it's, you know, not much more than a side hustle. It's just something to make a few $100 a month to pay for a vacation, to get out of debt, to buy a new motorcycle, or reach some other financial goal. And that's perfectly fine as well. So again, I don't care if your side hustle is big or small. I'd love to hear about it. Shoot me an email at rulesforrebels@gmail.com. Anyhow, without further ado, let's launch into today's story. Today's story is about a guy from Boston named Daniel, who by happy accident stumbled upon a ticket flipping hustle, which ultimately wound up bringing in as much as $12,000 per month. In today's episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays, we'll share his story as well as some tips on reselling tickets and how you could potentially replicate something similar to this. Daniel was a sports fanatic growing up, and upon graduating college, he got into sports management. But after seeing the crazy hours and hectic lifestyle of that career, he transitioned into education and became a physical education teacher. Daniel stumbled upon this side hustle again strictly by accident. He had just gotten out of a long-term relationship, but fortunately he had a buddy who was also single at the time. And one of the activities that he and his buddy Tom liked to do together was attend sporting events, concerts, and various other types of events around Boston. His buddy Tom, who he attended these events with, had a hectic work schedule. The guys would often buy tickets to a concert or sporting event month in advance, only to find out a day before or at the last minute that Tom couldn't attend, which left Daniel desperately trying to sell the tickets to recoup some of their money. Daniel soon realized, however, that he wasn't just salvaging some of the money they spent. Almost every time this happened, he actually wound up turning a profit. It was at this time he realized that he might be onto something and that this could potentially be a profitable side hustle to generate some additional money each month. Daniel began following local event sites and music venues, as well as companies like Ticketmaster and StubHub on Instagram and Twitter, as well as other social media platforms. And when a new show was booked, he'd learn about it through social media, he'd do a bit of research, but more often than not would just act on a gut feeling, and he'd buy tickets with the intention of flipping them. And again, more often than not, it worked out for him and he wound up turning a profit. Now, there was a lot of trial and error. He did make some bad calls and he did lose some money, but overall it was profitable, and he realized that he actually really liked doing it, and it didn't take a whole lot of time. Within a few months, Daniel was making upwards of $500 to $1,000 each month, and about 4 years into this, he actually began to take it a bit more seriously. He realized that he could scale and expand outside of his local area of Boston by selling tickets online on sites like eBay, StubHub, and others, and it wasn't long after this that Daniel was flipping as many as 500 tickets per month. As time went on, and as time picked up, Daniel realized that you had to do some research, and a gut feeling wasn't enough. He would not only look at past sales prices and the popularity of certain bands and artists, but would also look into the demographics of their audiences. Someone like Joyner Lucas or Fetty Wap or Drake, for example, might be popular, but they have a younger audience who can't necessarily drop hundreds or even thousands of dollars on the secondhand ticket market. Someone like Harry Styles, however, appeals to both young people and older, to daughters and their moms, and because of this, the secondhand market for these types of tickets would fetch more money. Now, this part is incredibly important about knowing the demographics. Over the years, I dabbled in flipping event tickets as well. My former business partner was a huge sports fan, and for years actually wanted us to use some of our e-commerce profits to get a ticket broker license here in Chicago, although we never actually did wind up following through and doing it. However, he and I would often buy tickets to various events and flip those tickets for a profit. A few years back, I made a killing on the Hamilton tickets, and I'm going to go off script a little bit here. I don't know if you guys remember when that music show Hamilton first came out. I think it first came out on Broadway in New York. It was hugely popular. I remember there'd be like lines around the block, people waiting to buy tickets, and I think they gave away so many free tickets every day, and there would literally be lines like blocks and blocks and blocks long. So we eventually heard that the Hamilton show was coming to Chicago. We knew it was going to be huge, and we were working together. We had both left our jobs at that time, and we're working on our e-commerce business together. We had a little basement office, and I remember that day sitting down there, like waiting on, I think it was Ticketmaster to buy these tickets. So I made a killing off those tickets. I think I bought them for about $400 a piece, and wound up selling the tickets for $1,400 or $1,500 a piece. And that kind of, like, years earlier, I'd been into flipping tickets, but that kind of resurged my interest, and I kind of got back into it. So sorry, guys, I'm a little bit tossed up here. I got off script a little bit, but I got back into ticket flipping after this and began keeping an eye on bands coming to Chicago. I noticed the band Phish, Phish with a PH. Phish had come out of hibernation. I think they'd come out of retirement or something like that. Or Trey Anastasio had joined the band back. Whatever it was, they'd kind of come out of hibernation, and they were doing a concert at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Now, in my mind, the slot machine noises and lights started going off, bells and whistles. Wrigley Field only allowed a show or two per year. And I'm going to go off script a little bit again. So previously, Wrigley Field never did concerts. Number of years back, they started doing one concert a year, and it was a Jimmy Buffett concert. Now, Jimmy Buffett already has a huge following. We kind of talked about demographics. Jimmy Buffett has an older demographic, meaning, people who are adults and established and have money, and tickets can go for some pretty crazy prices. And this was the only show at Wrigley Field. It had been like the only concert allowed there for decades. And tickets used to go for, tickets to a Jimmy Buffett concert in general go for a lot of money, but at Wrigley Field, they went for crazy prices. And it might be like a 1 or 2 night show. And they almost always sold out. So I thought I had to get tickets to this Phish concert, right? Because this was one of the few concerts that they have at Wrigley Field. So I bought the limit. It was either 4 tickets or 6 tickets they allowed you to buy, but I bought the limit based on my hunch. However, unfortunately, I was wrong. Not only had Wrigley Field opened the stadium up to a lot more shows this particular year, so the concert wasn't such a rare event, But even worse, if you know the demographics of Phish fans, it's a bunch of hippies and traveling kids who A, don't have a lot of money, and B, are pretty against people profiting off of tickets. They're wanting people to go for the love of the music, and they kind of hate ticket scalpers and things like that. I also didn't take into account that most people would want to be on the field, not in the upper deck dead center, which I initially thought would be the best seat in the house. Needless to say, I wound up selling these tickets. I paid, I don't know, 115 or 150 bucks each for. I wound up selling them for $25 a piece the day of the show. So took a big loss on that one. Anyhow, back to Daniel's story. He shared one particular show where he bought tickets for $100 and within 15 minutes had sold them for $700 per ticket. Daniel said one of the biggest challenges with flipping tickets is timing. Prices can fluctuate wildly, and if a show sells out, you can see prices skyrocket. However, if the band announces another tour date or more tickets becoming available, they can drop quickly as well. Daniel shared that he eventually realized it's good to not get greedy and take profit while you're solidly ahead. As Daniel continued his business, he was making anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 on a slow month, and as much as $10,000 to $12,000 during the summer months with a lot of great outdoor shows, and all for about 20 hours of work per week. Daniel still flips tickets. However, he has also created a digital course and coaching program for $99 a month where he has 30 training videos and teaches other people how to flip tickets and do exactly what he did. So guys, that's Daniel's story. Now at the end of these episodes, I like to share a personal anecdote or elaborate a bit on the business, the challenges, and my thoughts. Now one thing about this type of hustle, I think this type of thing is getting harder to do. As technology has gotten better and a lot of bands and venues are doing digital ticket sales where your ticket is on your phone and non-transferable. In some cases, you might even need to show your ID or the credit card the ticket was purchased with just to get into the venue. Many bands and artists are doing this to prevent scalping and the resale of tickets so that true fans can go to the shows. A buddy of mine ran into this after buying tickets a while back that he had planned on flipping, and fortunately for him, he was able to sell the tickets. However, he actually had to go and meet the people he sold the tickets to at the venue and walk them to the gate in order to get them in. So I think that's a big challenge that this type of ticket flipping hustle is going to start facing in the future. And I think in the case of my Hamilton tickets, I think they weren't willing to give out physical tickets. Like I had to call them up and they were like, well, get them on your phone. And I think I told them I had a flip phone. And finally I got them to offer to send me the physical tickets. I think I had to pay an extra 25 bucks per ticket. And they really gave me a hassle, but I was like, look, man, I got a flip phone. I don't got a phone. I can't get these tickets. And it was really a headache just to get these physical tickets so I could resell them. Getting back to Daniel's story, another interesting comment about Daniel and his new hustle of coaching or selling this digital course. A lot of people criticize people for selling knowledge or information. Knowledge or information is one of the most valuable things around, so there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. However, one thing I will say is when something is profitable, people generally keep it to themselves and make their money doing that thing. It's when something starts to fizzle out or somebody sees the end is near or a decline is happening that people begin trying to create some backup income streams or sell that knowledge. And while the ticket flipping game probably still has some life left in it, I think that's likely why Daniel has expanded his business to teaching others. And the same thing could be said of like drop shipping, Amazon FBA. A lot of the things you see people selling knowledge about now, like, yeah, there's money in them, but with a lot of those things, the heyday is kind of gone. Anyhow, guys, that's today's episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. It's good to be back, and it's fun to do these videos. I'm going to try to get the inventor of the Steam clip on here to do an episode in the coming weeks. And if you guys have a story you want to share, be sure to drop me an email at rulesforrebels@gmail.com. Again, I'll connect with you guys, either send you a questionnaire or chat with you on Hangouts or something like that, get your story, and you can be featured on here as well. Anyhow, guys, until next Tuesday, this is Rules for Rebels and Side Hustle Tuesdays, signing out.